My name is Danika, and today I wanted to talk about my queer comic collection. I say my queer comics collection as if that's one part of my comics collection, but when I pulled out all of my queer comics, the only thing left on the shelf were two series, one of which probably could have counted as queer books. Those were Unwritten by Mike Carey, which is one of my favorites, and Why the Last Man. All my other comics are queer. So I just thought I would run through them and tell you a little bit about each of them. I think I've read about half of the ones that I own. I'll start with the ones I've read, and then I'll tell you about the ones I'm excited about. I had to start with my Buffy comics, which I only kept the Willow and Tara one, because if you don't know, Tara is my favorite fictional character of all time. And even though these comics are not particularly memorable, I did get it signed by Amber Benson, so of course I'm gonna keep this. Also, Willow and Tara comics, they're so cute. Also, something that some people might think doesn't count, my Sailor Moon manga. I do have the entire series, including this Sailor V manga. Some people will say that's not queer comics, but I say, first of all, you can't discount how amazing Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune are, and how integral they are to the queer woman collective consciousness. Also, Usagi is bi. I'm sorry, she sees a pretty girl and her eyes turn into hearts. She's bi. She is. She kisses Haruka, she likes it, she is not straight. In the same vein is Revolutionary Girl Utena. I love the TV series, I love the movie. The manga, frankly, is just okay, but I feel like I have to have the whole collection. The manga is not as blatantly queer as the movie or even the show is, but it's still there, and it's especially there in the standalone manga. I have a lot of theories about Utena, and part of the manga tellings of it fits into my theory of kind of the cycle of Utena. So I have to keep the books, even if honestly they're not nearly as good as the show. I have my little collection of Rosalarian books. Meaty Yogurt, which is the least queer, but it does have a lesbian side character. Two of her porn comics, Eat Me and Darlin' It's Better Down Where It's Wetta. This is a lesbian porn mermaid comic, so if you feel like you would like that, you would like this. Eat Me is a super weird, surreal, literal food porn. Gets really creepy in places. And of course the comic that started it all, You and Me Dream. I followed this comic for many years online as a webcomic. When You and Me Dream was coming out online, it was one of the few queer webcomics out there. It started off in this manga-inspired style. It was pretty simple, and that was pretty typical of webcomics at the time. By the time the series finished, it was experimenting with a whole bunch of different styles. Rosalarian's style had gotten much more complex and sophisticated, and she tries so many things in this comic. I loved it as it was coming out, and I've been following all of Rosalarian's work online and in physical book form since. I wish I had I Was Kidnapped by Lesbian Pirates from Outer Space, but unfortunately pretty much no one has that because the rights were basically stolen from her, so I will always mourn that. But I do have the rest of hers. And of course I have Bitch Planet. This is a super feminist, amazing comic with some queer content as well. If you haven't heard of it, I highly, highly recommend you check it out. If you can't get the single issues, they have the essays in the back, which are great, but they're also great in trade format. And of course Lumberjanes, which you are probably familiar with. I have volumes 1, 2, and 5. I did have all of them, but then I gave them to my niece and I haven't rebought them for myself yet. This is a really fun series about girls at summer camp, and it has a lot of fantasy and adventure, lots of queer content. It's super cute. I actually haven't read all of these yet. I think I only read the first volume, which is wild because I love them and I feel like I'm just saving them. I'll have to buy up the whole series and binge read them at some point. I think the problem is that I always want to read them in the summer, and then summer comes around and I have other books that I feel like I have to read right then and I forget, but these are good all the time. I don't need to save them for summer. Super Mutant Magic Academy by Jillian Tamaki was also a webcomic at first. I really loved this book, but you should go in kind of expecting a lot of standalone panels with sort of a thread through them and not a traditional linear story. There isn't a ton of queer content, but what's there is really poignant, and it is this main character on the cover who is queer. It's super strange and feminist and funny and sarcastic and dark, and I love it. Then I have Gem and the Holograms, which is such a fun book. It's just totally bright and positive. One of the girls is a lesbian who has a relationship with the girl from from a rival band, and they're adorable. It's also super diverse. I love Sophie Campbell and her illustration style. She is especially great at drawing women with lots of different body types, and this is just my perfect cotton candy book. It just makes me really happy. Again, I have not caught up with the series, and I need to because I love it. I have trouble keeping up with series. I actually don't think there are any book series, comics, or otherwise that I am currently following. I generally just wait till they're all out because that's how bad I am with keeping up with things. Sugartown is a recent addition to my queer comics collection, and I love it. This is another really sweet, happy book. It is a queer poly BDSM relationship, but mostly I love it because everyone is very kind and understanding of each other, and even though they do struggle with things like jealousy, they talk it out and they are very kind to each other about it, and that's lovely. And of course, one of my favorite books of all time, this was a recent read, but I just fell in love with it so hard. The 100 Nights of Hero, and this is a retelling of 1001 Nights, and it is queer, it is feminist, the illustrations are just beautiful. There are lots of different page layouts. I love the color scheme. It's unexpectedly funny in that sort of dry, wit way. I can't really explain how much I love this book because it's so over the top. I actually read like 3 pages and then just had to put it down because I physically couldn't handle how much I loved it. My heart was racing from how much I was in love with this book. I don't think I can give any higher praise than that, so just check it out. On to the books that I haven't read yet. I have this habit of supporting especially queer comics anthologies on Kickstarter and then not actually reading the books even though I'm super excited about them. The first one was this, Girly by Josh Lesnick. Before You and Me Dream, there was Girly, the webcomic, and although I spent, I believe, more than $100 on this, I have not read it. I read Cute Wendy, which came with it, which is sort of the prequel, and it was very, very strange, and I remember I read Girly the webcomic, and it was pretty different from Cute Wendy, so I didn't love this, but I'm sure I will like Girly a lot more because I did read some of the webcomics as they were coming out, and I enjoyed them, obviously because I supported the Kickstarter, but for some reason this has been sitting on my shelf for more than 5 years. I don't know why. I have a problem. I also have a couple of manga that I haven't read yet. Red String, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this was a webcomic first as well. This is actually the second volume, but it's the volume that has a queer couple, so I just skipped the first one. Also, Strawberry Panic. This is the novels, not the manga, but I read the manga and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, but it felt like there should be more to the series, so I wanted to pick up the novels and see if those fill in the gaps. I also got some individual comics. My local comic book shop was having a sale where all of their single issue comics were $1. Everything in the store that was staple bound was $1, which was amazing, and I picked up a stack of things to try, and some of the queer ones were Moonstruck by Grace Ellis, which I've heard really good things about. They only had issues 2 and 3, but I bought the first one as a digital comic, so I'm excited to read those. Also Space Battle Lunchtime, which I've heard is really cute, and I love all ages comics. I love all ages queer comics especially. I also have The Legend of Bolt Riley, which originally I heard only amazing things about, and then I read one criticism of it and that kind of scared me off, so I haven't read it, but I feel like that's a little bit silly because I'm sure I will still enjoy it. I also have Shadow Eyes, and I don't actually think this one has queer content, but it's by Sophie Campbell, who did Gem the Holograms, and I love her art, and she is a trans woman. She also did a lesbian zombie comic that I loved, and also I'm just hoping this has queer content that I'm not aware of, but either way, I'm sure this will be great. This is about a girl who can transform into this creature that she calls Shadow Eyes and becomes a sort of superhero, but then she can't transform back again. This is Fresh Romance, another one I supported through Kickstarter, and it's a romance comics anthology, including queer romances. Shadow Eyes was also a buy from Kickstarter. I don't know why I am so tempted by queer comics on Kickstarter. I think because of the urgency of, like, if I personally don't buy them, they won't exist, and that would be a tragedy, so I am obliged morally to buy these. Here's one that I didn't buy online, Princeless. This actually came into the store that I work at. When I got it, I was like, this is so great, I'm gonna price it higher. And then after I priced it, I realized it was so great I was gonna have to buy it. And why did I price it that high? I also have all of them in digital format, which one of the writers sent to me for review, which is amazing, and I need to get to those. Because as I just said, all ages queer comics are kind of my favorite. One of my newest additions is As the Crow Flies by Melanie Gilman. I've been following this comic online. I haven't read it in the physical format yet. Melanie Gilman has this amazing pencil crayon illustration style. It's really beautiful and detailed and so time consuming. As the Crow Flies is a book about a queer brown girl going to this summer camp that is basically a feminist Christian camp, and she kind of realizes that she doesn't feel like she belongs there. Pretty much everyone else is white and straight, but she does become friends with a trans girl named Sydney. Pockets is sort of a Sydney backstory. They are another webcomic artist that I have been following and supporting online for a while. I've bought some of their little zine style comic. There's also Sweet Rock, which is a 24-hour comic that they did that's like a queer fairy tale basically. Everything Melanie Gilman does is fantastic. I also love reading their diary style comics that they post on their Patreon and Twitter. I definitely recommend checking them out and everything that they do. And of course there's the Beyond comic. This is an anthology that I also supported on Kickstarter. Why have I not read it? I don't know. It looks amazing. I paid for it. I don't know what I'm doing. Here's another great Kickstarter buy. Power and Magic, the Queer Witch Comics Anthology. These are also all people of color. I am so grateful that we live in a time where an anthology like this can exist and can get the funding to really be produced in this beautiful format and reach its audience, because I think it's only recently that that has been possible. A mainstream publisher would think this is too niche, that people wouldn't want it, and that's not true at all. This got completely funded and quite a bit more, I think, on Kickstarter. And I know that there's another volume that's either already come out or is coming out, and that's what I really love about Kickstarter and other crowdfunding campaigns, is it can make things like this possible. Another one that has just arrived, Tabula Item, which is a queer tarot comics anthology. It came with the cutest little ex libris that I've ever seen. I also bought the set, which comes with a little pack of tarot cards. I don't believe this is a complete deck. I'm very excited about that. I don't really use tarot cards, but I am very intrigued by them, especially the sort of storytelling potential in them. So that is my queer comics collection. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them. Also let me know if you'd like to see any similar videos to this about other parts of my queer book collection, and thank you for watching.